Hey folks, I just wanted to go over Chapter 16 with you briefly in a quick overview so you know what you're getting into for this week. This is the last chapter of this third unit, and next week we kind of jump backwards into Chapter 15. I didn't like the way your book laid out some of the topics. So this chapter is a continuation of what we did in Chapter 14. In Chapter 14 we were looking at overall integration and control systems within the brain and spinal cord and how relays and how messages were relayed. Here we're going to specifically look at the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions, and how that influences specific organs and parts of the body. So what you'll see first of all on page 549 is a chart basically comparing the role of the somatic nervous system and the autonomic nervous system in terms of basic nervous system anatomy, like synapses and types of neurons and things like that. Just a tit-for-tat comparison there. Important to understand the differences between the two. You can also see it diagrammed out in the figure. Obviously with somatic motor, we're talking motor neurons going to and from the muscles, sensory neurons coming to and from the muscles in terms of joint position and things like that. Here we're looking at, this is our smooth muscle, not our skeletal muscle, that's being inhibited or excited, and it's also our glands. So all of those things that we don't think about naturally are what we're talking about when we talk about the autonomic nervous system. So on page 16 figure 16.2, 550, you'll see a breakdown of the sympathetic division of your nervous system. These are mostly coming from the spinal nerves. That's where your sympathetic nerve fibers leave your body. The majority of your cranial nerves were related to parasympathetic input or sensory input, not necessarily sympathetic. So here we're looking at the majority of our spinal cord for sympathetic, and it goes through on the next page a little bit of the parasympathetic division. You can see that a similar diagram there on page 553. The majority of parasympathetic is craniosacral, so they call it craniosacral, coming from the brain, cranial nerves, as well as the sacral region of the spinal cord. What you'll see on figure 16.3 is the different pathways that are taken by the sympathetic and parasympathetic division to get to various organs. For example, the heart or the adrenal glands and the intestines. So you can see how it travels a different route to get to different places in the body, and that's for a specific purpose. Everything in our body is structure and function. It's all related. You'll see the distribution of the autonomic nerve fibers on figure 16.5. It's basically showing you they're everywhere. The majority is concentrated around the heart or in the intestines for feedback loop within the enteric nervous system. There's not a whole lot of innervation for the autonomic nerve fibers in the periphery. The majority of it is in the thoracic and abdominal pelvic areas, not within the limbs. So that's important to understand. Moving on to the next page, you have the different innervations for various organs. Many, in fact most of our organs are dual innervated. They have sympathetic and parasympathetic input. This kind of accelerator or like a go button and a stop button, right? Because sympathetic is fight or flight, it's turning things on, it's increasing, and then the parasympathetic is, for the most part, slowing things down. Unless we're talking about digestion, and then it's vice versa. So you'll see that the majority of our organs here do have dual innervation. You can see where those nerves originate. You don't have to know where they originate, but you should know the effects of parasympathetic or sympathetic on particular parts of the body. So for instance, if I said the liver is dual innervated, what is the role of the parasympathetic nervous system on the liver? Then you would say something like increased digestive secretions and things like that, because the parasympathetic enhances the digestion. And so just kind of keep those things in mind. There are different effects of different receptors and different neurotransmitters depending on where they are in the body and what the target is. And that's what figure 16.7 is on page 559. You basically see different receptors responding differently because of the various neurotransmitters that are being released. In other words, acetylcholine is going to do one thing at a at a synapse, and epinephrine or norepinephrine is going to do a different thing at maybe even the same synapse. So the actual neurotransmitter is going to play a role here, and many of our synapses kind of can do both, or will have this kind of interplay between a little bit of ACH and a little bit of NE, kind of to create this tone or this balance in between sympathetic and parasympathetic. The majority of our organs are always sitting in that gray area. You'll see the effects of sympathetic and parasympathetic on various parts of our body on that next diagrams of table 16.3. It's important to understand the effects of each, as I've said already. Then you get into some autonomic reflexes, like your heart rate reflexes. That's very important to understand how those work. And it's mostly regulated through the parasympathetic nervous system, just slowing it down. And what else is important? Different diseases and disorders associated with the autonomic nervous system, but this is mostly just about understanding the different fibers and the different effects of various neurotransmitters within the sympathetic and parasympathetic division. This kind of interplay between both divisions of the autonomic nervous system. So please let me know if you guys have any questions, and keep up the hard work. Bye.